My guest is Lee Birmingham from Sandy Pines Wildlife Center. So glad you could come in.
No, thanks for having me.
And so for people who don't know what Sandy Pines is, can you fill me in?
Okay, so Sandy Pines is a wildlife center that was established about 25 years ago. It kind of got started very organically, so it's really hard to nail down an exact time frame, but Sue Meach and her husband Donald Angus started the wildlife center. It started small. They were active with the Humane Society in Napanee. They had been fostering dogs and cats and other animals. They had a hobby farm, so they would take in farm animals that needed some care. And the Humane Society reached out and said, we have a litter of orphans that need some care. Would you be able to take them? They can't be raised here, and that made sense to Sue, so she gave it a whirl, did a nosedive into wildlife rehab, and that litter then, the next year.
It was a litter of?
Raccoons, sorry.
Raccoons, okay.
Yes, so the Humane Society had asked her to take a family of raccoons, a litter of orphaned raccoons. So she took those on, and then the next year there were a few more come in, and then, a couple of skunks, and then some squirrels. And she could see that there was a need, that there was nobody out there that was looking after wildlife when they were orphaned or injured. And so she kind of rose to that need, and by 2001 she got charitable status. And that sort of, I came in at about that time as a summer student. I was her first employee, and then it just started snowballing even faster.
So now you accommodate how many animals a year?
So now we're up to 6,000. About 6,000 animals a year come through the doors of Sandy Pines, and that's not even considering all the phone calls we take in. We take in. Thousands of phone calls, especially throughout this busy season in the spring, and those animals are helped by us as well, even though they don't end up having to come in.
Sure, you give them the advice they need, and they can do it themselves. Yeah. So you deal with the smallest would be like
moles, voles, squirrels, hatchling turtles,
and all the way up to.
Usually fawns are one of the largest that we care for. We will short-term care for something like a bear. They're usually yearlings when we get them in, and they've run into problems because they've been orphaned. Bears would normally be with their mom for the first couple of years. So we tend to triage them and then send them off to another rehab center in Ontario that focuses on bears specifically.
Okay, so this is 6,000, what a cross-section, and the need of the facilities to look after such a cross-section.
Yeah, birds, mammals, reptiles, so all species, anything native wildlife to Ontario, we will care for. Yes, and we have had to build all kinds of different structures to be able to properly care for the different species.
And the learning curve. Each time you get something a little bit different.
Yes, that's one of the things I love about it is we're always learning. I'll be 20 years that I'll have been there full time next year, and I'm still getting species come through that we really haven't had much experience with, or maybe we've raised some young before, but we've never dealt with the adult, or vice versa. And so there's always a learning curve. And then wildlife rehab sort of is as an area of work kind of started around the same time Sue got started in it. Before that, there might have been somebody in the neighborhood who cared for them, but it wasn't really acknowledged by the Ministry of Natural Resources, and that's who licenses us to allow us to care for wildlife. It is illegal to have a wild animal in your home for longer than 24 hours without being in touch with a wildlife rehabilitator.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they just want to make sure that they're getting the proper care, and that people that understand disease transmission aren't moving these animals from one area to another, potentially causing a pandemic.
Right, of course,
there's a lot to be considered with it, that it's not as simple, I think, as some people I think some people consider it child's play. Like, it's summertime, you find a litter of raccoons, we'll let the kids, feed them and raise them. And it really is beyond that. I mean, when we have an orphaned raccoon, each one of them costs us about $500 to raise. They require a minimum of 4 months in care. They are vaccinated every 2 weeks for some of the viruses that they are going to potentially face. They are dewormed every 2 weeks and also given things like flea and tick medication. And just trying to care for a species that's that intelligent. Raccoons are one of the most adaptable and intelligent species we have, hence the reason their population is so high. So yeah, we really have to work hard to keep them occupied and learning.
I heard once that they don't wash their food, they're actually softening it. Because there was always that thing when they put their food in water or something, and we always said they're washing it, but then I heard somebody say, no, actually they're softening it.
Yeah, they are often softening it. They're also getting a better feel for it. So they have highly tactile hands,
they're
and
almost like,
underwater they can feel even more.
okay.
So they're often getting a feel for it. You'll see that when they do this, they look off. They're not looking at what it is they're feeling. They're looking away and sort of trying to figure it out.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting. So you deal with orphans. That's ones where mom has been killed or has, is not on the scene. Yeah. And then injured would be the other, or is that those pretty much
so
the two
injured
categories?
Animals that are hit by vehicles, animals that have been attacked by cats or dogs.
Okay.
Humans sometimes injure animals, found in the wrong place. So a person tried to get it out of that location and inadvertently hurt them in the process. Most of what we deal with is because of the close proximity that humans and wildlife are currently living in. So most of our patients are very urban type patients, like squirrels, rabbits, raccoons, foxes, coyotes, so things that you would see in and around the city. And then some of the more forested animals we will see as well. But a lot of it's because of the conflict they come into when they interact with humans.
So give me some advice. If I come across what I think is a bunch of bunnies or raccoons or something, and mom's nowhere to be seen, what should I do?
Well, I often suggest people start by calling the Wildlife Center, because we will triage and ask them questions that lead us to determine, do we need to interfere, or is the situation fine? With bunnies, because they're left alone for most of the day, the mother's actually more likely to attract predators than the babies are. They're virtually scentless and hidden in a nest, in a shallow nest on the ground. So left alone, harder for a predator to find. But if mom's there, she's a big beacon saying, food is here. And of course, she can attempt to run away, but her babies can't. So she stays away from them until dusk and dawn and only feeds them twice a day. So we can talk people through this if they call in first and talk to us. Now, if the animal's in imminent danger, there's a cat stalking it.
Your cat, right?
Yeah, there's they're on the middle of the road, then certainly get the animal secured first into a box or a container of some sort, and then call us. But often, I mean, if you suspect you have raccoons living in your house, in the attic, call us. We will help you work through some techniques to get them to move on their own.
Okay.
And many wildlife mothers have multiple den sites created before they give birth in one, so that if they have to move suddenly, they can. And what we try to work with that natural behavior of those, make the den site they've been found at unstable, unpredictable, dangerous, essentially, not a place you'd want to raise your young, and they will move their young themselves.
Wow, that's I had no idea.
Yeah.
So you have 6,000 animals a year. This has got to be expensive for you.
Oh, it certainly is.
And where's your money? Where does your money come from?
There is no government funding in wildlife rehab. We are licensed by the Ministry of Natural Resources, but they do not provide funding for it at all. So it all comes from our community, the supporters we have, and the donations. We do run some different events when we can throughout the year. Your grant team is a local real estate agent that puts on a fantastic golf tournament for us.
And there's still some room there. And,
they're still in need of some golfers.
Right, so look up your grant team at real estate and see if you can get into a golf.
Yeah, they have a link on their
tournament.
Facebook page.
All right.
And you can sign up there.
And sending just plain old money in is probably always welcome, check or
certainly calling in. We can do e-transfers.
Okay.
Because we are a non-for-profit, we can issue tax receipts for anything $20 and over.
And the other is a 50-50 that you...
Yeah, the 50-50 online raffle has been a great success for us at keeping some money coming in every month. And you can find links to that on our Facebook page and our website, because the June 1, I think the early bird deadline is June 10th. So they have a few days to get in there before the early bird draw.
And how much do people usually win?
So it really varies. Some months it's up in comparison to others. We've had it as high as people winning $20,000.
Really?
And then other months, if there hasn't been as much attention to the event, because we've had maybe another event we're promoting, you know, 5,000, 4,000.
That's still a nice little windfall.
It's amazing, and we love it because not only is it helping us and the wildlife, but a lot of the people
getting a windfall.
Oh yeah, a lot of the people that have won really needed it. It came in a really important time for them.
So that's terrific.
And
anyway, I wish you continued success. 25 years is something to be applauded, and thank you so much for coming in today to tell me about all this.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.